I had another thought for the day. Um, Ever since uh, getting treatment, I've been having more pains in my bones, and to the point where there'll be sometimes that I don't even know that I'm fucking screaming or whining out loud when I'm moving. And I I came to realize that one day when my brother kept asking me, "What's going on? What's wrong? You okay?" And I was wondering why he kept asking me if I was okay. It's because every time I was moving, I was fucking crying, like, out of pain. And I'm so used to pain that sometimes I don't realize it's happening, and so I feel like my bones are deteriorating, and my health in general. But it got me to thinking. Um, One thing I learned doing a lot of time in the back is that um, CDC tends to do business with people or other businesses that have a monopoly on the market, which goes against the laws of the United States. There's supposed to be laws to prevent businesses from monopolizing because they would they'll hike up the prices and just break our pockets. There would be no competition and nobody able to bid on that market, which would leave pretty much just one person in charge. And they might split up the company, but into a couple companies, but they'll be owned by the same person. So they're pretty much competing with their own, with themselves, and they have an easy way to hike up the prices. A prime example of that is what happened with the phones. Um, in the beginning, there was, I believe, two or three different companies that would be able to bid on our collect calls to our families, and slowly but surely they went eliminating um, the other businesses and or companies and just left with one, and they fucking rack the prices up on your phones, which is, a lot of us are coming from poor families uh, that are fucking living day to day on rent, and to have another bill like a phone bill, um, where they're charging you, I can't remember what it was, but like dollars on a minute, you know. Uh, I believe at one time it was like $2 or $3 for a minute or something, if not higher. And so it got me thinking, like, man, are they doing the same thing with medical? Are these guys um, using backward tactics to make contracts with medical companies? Um, Maybe to try new things out on us, since we're a controlled population, um, and test stuff on us that we have no idea. They're trying to eliminate communication between us and our family. Um, so I mean, it would be prime meat, to say, for lack of better words, for them to be testing stuff on us. Um, they make it difficult for us to communicate to the outside, and when we do, it's hard to get people to believe us because most of us are minorities and come from minority families, and if you're not from a minority, you're coming from a lower income family and don't have the means to fight um, a system that is fucking drenched in money, and 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 not from their blood and sweat, but from our blood, sweat, and tears. And and they use inmate labor to make and manufacture things. I talked about this before, but I'm thinking they're paying us pennies, 10 cents, 15 cents, the pay rate. People don't even use pennies out in the real world anymore. You would hardly see that. They're trying to get shortage of change. They're trying to eliminate change as a whole, and I'm pretty sure they're trying to eliminate the dollar, um, a physical dollar. But yet they're paying you cents for hours work. Like, that type of stuff doesn't make sense to me. Um, it's another form of slave labor. If you guys haven't seen that movie on Netflix, I believe it's called The 13th. It's a good explanation of how they've progressively kept the institution of slavery by other means, and um, and and anybody that opposes that system, or challenges that system, or makes light of that system, or tries to make light of that system, like bring it out into the sunlight, are oppressed, are dealt and met with force, abuse, and and try to and they try to lose them in the system. They do everything they can to get you in trouble, throw you in the back in the hole, where they'll make it even more difficult. You can't have before, you couldn't have phone calls, you couldn't call your family. You go years without hearing your family's voice. Um, um, and they'll make mail difficult. They'll hold off on your mail. So they're using tactics to suppress your voice if you decide to fight the system, and fight for your civil rights and your liberties that are promised to you, um, by words on paper somewhere. But I mean, it's hard to believe when you're living a life, and you don't see justice. You see revenge and hatred and suppression. And so, yeah, that's what a couple thoughts I had today. And going back to the point where I was saying, like, man, are these dudes trying to block me from succeeding? I'm having all these. You need a social security card to function in this world, in the United States. To be a citizen, there's things that you need, and if they're blocking you or making it difficult, for instance, if you don't have credit, you can't do anything in this world. I could be the hardest worker in the world and have plenty of money, or just maybe a middle wage guy that know how to save his money, middle to lower wage guy that knew how to save his money, to try to make himself better, or build a life for himself or family. But if you're on the naughty list, and they prevent you from having any kind of credit, what can you do? You can't buy a car, you can't buy a house. I can't buy a phone, a brand new phone. I can't buy some of the things that would allow me to progress as a member of society, and be functional, and yet they proclaim that everybody comes out of prison, or they go back to prison. Chances are they're going to continue to be losers. Well, are you making us into this? Are you forcing us into this situation where I can't do better for myself? Um, that's the question, and I think in some cases it's true, maybe and probably in many cases, but in my case for sure, I had the money to do, um, um, to try to buy my own piece of land and something I could call my own, but for some reason, everywhere I went and everywhere I asked, credit. I couldn't build credit. I wasn't allowed to get a card. I wasn't allowed to do anything. They'd say pretty much my credit would come up as blank, and I forgot the words they used exactly, but pretty much I couldn't start, not even from the bottom, And so these are like the underground tactics that can be used against you to prevent you to prevail in life, to fight the system and be successful as a poor man. And so you gotta be careful, man. There's stuff going on out here that you being stuck on your phone, on Facebook and Instagram, and YouTube, which are I use for entertainment purposes, obviously. But if you're stuck on these things every day, all day, without looking at the world around you, your rights are going to be taken away from you, and under the guise of them doing you a favor. the wave the candy in front of your face, and you know, if you don't have control, or you know, if you don't think outside the box, you grab the candy, but you don't know that the candy, you know, have fucking cyanide or some shit in it, you know. So you gotta be careful on what you're doing and what's going around you. And you know, if this world is getting worse, I mean, you know, you gotta take responsibility for the decisions and and um, and what's going on out there. You know, it, like they say, have you heard the saying where it says, you know, one person might not make a difference, but I mean that one person can influence two people, and those two people can influence four people, and so on and so forth, and that's how change begins.